Passages for this second Sunday of Advent. The first is from Isaiah 40, and the second is from Luke chapter 2. First, Isaiah chapter 40, verses 9 through 11. You who bring good news to Zion, go up on a high mountain. You who bring good news to Jerusalem, lift up your voice with a shout, lift it up. Do not be afraid. Say to the towns of Judah, here is your God. See, the sovereign Lord comes with power, and he rules with a mighty arm. See, his reward is with him, and his recompense accompanies him. He tends his flock like a shepherd. He carries the lambs in his arms. He carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those that have young. And then by way of contrast, Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. In the days Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. And everyone went to their hometown to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in clothes and placed him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them. This is the word of the Lord. So Isaiah begins his message with good news to proclaim with confidence. Here is your God. To a beleaguered people, to a people that had been displaced, exiled, cut off from the temple, Isaiah says, your time of exile is over. It's time to come home. Here is your God. He has not forgotten you. He has not abandoned you. He has not forsaken you. He is coming. Proclaim it with courage and boldness. He comes with peace. And he begins with images before he pivots to the image of a shepherd. He portrays God as ruling with a mighty arm and coming with power. And if your imagination isn't properly shaped by the rest of Isaiah's vision, you might picture somebody like Augustus Caesar. Augustus Caesar had unified all of Rome under his authority, and he transitioned from a time of chaos and infighting, dramas that are literally Shakespearean, and I say literally because Shakespeare literally wrote dramas about the house of the different Caesars in the different times of Rome's history. But he brought it into the first golden age. He brought Pax Romana, the peace of Rome. And with that peace came all sorts of really practical benefits. He built the infrastructure road system, was wide and it was now safe. And if you think about what a wide, safe road meant to Rome at the beginning of the first century, it meant that the economy could flow uninterrupted, that you could safely transport your goods throughout the empire knowing the road is safe and stable. There's not going to be potholes. There's not going to be raiders that are going to come down and steal your things. It's now safe to go around. He instituted public safety things. I found out this week, I was yesterday years old, when I found out that Augustus Caesar established the first fire department in history. And so now when there was a fire that was burning, there was somebody to call. I mean, there's no 911 yet, but the early seedings of the things we take for granted of somebody to come and whose job was to put out fires and create safety. There was beginnings of a policing system, ways of ensuring that people could live in safety. Economic prosperity, the kingdom expanded and grew so that the life of many of the average citizens greatly improved, and having stable leadership in Rome without these factions that are always infighting, backstabbing each other, it's where the term backstabbing came from was from Rome and Caesar's in those days. Et tu, Brute? Yeah, no? Shakespeare? Okay, a few of you are nodding. It's good to know there are people in this room. That he brought in a time of unity, prosperity, safety, and peace. And I guess sounds pretty good. Augustus would agree. He would say, literally, he's transcended humanity. He no longer is a mere mortal, but the son of a literal deity, a god, that he is somebody that ought to be glorified as if he were a god. He started saying Caesar is Lord, which is why when Christians started saying Jesus is Lord, it was actually a political statement. It was a way of saying that Jesus is Lord of peace. Jesus is the Son of the living God, not Augustus or Julius Caesar. And so he brought in this time of stability, prosperity, but then began to think of himself as a god. And he began to do things like demand a census. Did you guys do the census? How annoying was that? I couldn't believe, I expected about 5 minutes online of, clicking a few buttons here and there. It took me an hour, and I got 2 times, we need more information from you over here. And I was like, why do you need all this information? Well, can I tell you why they needed that information? It's the same reason Caesar wanted that information. It's about taxation. It's about understanding the makeup of the country so that there can be an expectation set as far as how much taxes can be expected and extracted for budgeting purposes. And when you think about Augustus Caesar towards the end of his reign, kind of taking stock, thinking like, I know I'm great, but how great actually am I? He takes the census to find out the extent of his reign and his power, much like David did at the end of his reign, saying like, I wonder how many fighting men I have. I wonder how many people I govern and rule over. I'm curious about that. So he demands a census. And it's a census at a time where there wasn't postcard to mail back or something to do online. It was a time when everybody had to go to their hometown. So the head of the household so for me, just take me as an example. I was born in Royal Oak, Michigan, just outside Detroit. And so if there was a demanded census, I would have to take my whole family all the way to Royal Oak, Michigan, have to find a place to stay there, have to stand in line, I'd have to talk to some bureaucrat that would write stuff down, and I would go home and I would say, well, what was that all for? That was a lot of money out of my personal account expenses. It's a lot of displacing whole families to go and register them together. How much more inconvenient would it have been in the first century? How much more inconvenient would it have been if you had to travel a couple days on foot or on the back of a mule and you're 9 months pregnant? And you're just thinking as you go down this dusty road, down the southern road, down into the city of David, the town of Bethlehem, with a 9-month-old pregnant wife. I don't think her OBGYN signed off on that, but it's one of those things where you're like, do I just say I'm pregnant? I'm not going to do that and risk fines, imprisonments. What are the consequences of skipping this? And so they go and make the journey, probably a couple days, down to Bethlehem. And the whole time, I'm sure she's like, is that a contraction? Or just the fact that I'm literally bobbing up and down on the back of a donkey. How much further is it? We're not even to Jerusalem yet. Like, when are we going to get there? And as they go, thinking, I don't want to give birth on the side of the road. There are 3 concerns about that. First and foremost is safety, hygiene. It's dirty. It's messy. It's very painful. It's very private. This isn't an experience I want to have on an open road with people walking by, saying, what is that loud groaning noise? Oh, there's somebody giving birth on the side of the road. Caesar doesn't care. He's not attuned to the inconvenience that everybody is experiencing that moment. But I'll tell you what, Mary and Joseph were very aware of the high cost of being displaced because of the ego or the greed or whatever motivated Caesar to move everybody in the empire around to leverage all the resources and infrastructure of the government to count people. What do you think, as Mary and Joseph were going down that road, they wanted? I think they would have wanted safety, rest, friends, people around them to help out. I've been at a couple live births. They're in the back if you want to know who I'm talking about here. To no one's surprise, I was not particularly useful. I found out where the ice machine was, and Lindsay, I think, still is searching for ice as refreshing and crisp and just that size and crunch of the ice in the hospital. Cranberry juice, and then other than that, I was just kind of staying out of the way, unless you're like a doctor or an EMT or a nurse or somebody that actually has training in delivery. I'm sure Joseph, when the baby finally started coming, was panicked and, panicked. I don't know what else I need to add to that. He was all the cocktail of emotions that go in sheer panic as he is trying to figure out how to be helpful and how to bring this baby in the world. What Mary and Joseph needed in that moment was what the Messiah was going to bring. Peace, comfort, safety, to be there, to know everything's going to be okay. Caesar, in some ways, these two passages tell the story of two different kings. One, a king who moves people around to count them, versus a shepherd who knows the name of the sheep, who, as Isaiah so beautifully portrayed, I've been really meditating on this, tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms, carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those that have young. How does Isaiah describe how God exercises his authority? When he talks about a mighty arm and great power, what does it look like when that power comes into the world? What does it look like when the Messiah actually comes, showing and demonstrating to the world his power, his might, his strength? It looks like a shepherd, leading, guiding. It looks like a shepherd who scoops up lambs who are too tired or sick to walk, who, as Jesus would later tell, who goes after the lost, those who have wandered away, and brings them back into safety. A shepherd who is not like a hired hand that if there's danger will run and flee and think of his own safety instead of that of his flock, but is willing to die, to go, to fight, to battle, to protect, to nurture. A shepherd who leads and protects. And a shepherd, as Isaiah gives us, who comes to gather, to bring back together those who have spread far away, to bring them back home, to carry those who are too sick to go on, who have been made lame or are too young and small to make the journey, to scoop them up and say, every one of you matters. Each one of you is someone I've come to bring, to gather, to lead, to guide, to direct, to lead to pastures that will nourish you, to give you a place to lay down and rest. A sheep can rest when they know they're safe. The shepherd's watching out, they can safely rest. To pass through the valley of the shadow of death, but to be present and to walk through that. Jesus, who is acquainted with the power and sting of death, walking alongside with us. And then, as the psalmist in Psalm 23, David tells us, preparing a table before us, before our enemies. A table with food, with our cup overflowing, our enemies, the haters, being present in there, in front and seeing God's blessing over us flow. That is what the Messiah has come to bring. If you read Isaiah, you have some of those beautiful images in all of Scripture. You have dry, caked desert ground with springs flowing, flowers blossoming, like Ezekiel, the image of graves being dug up and bones inside, and flesh being made, life coming out of those spaces. A road through the desert to his safe place, at the image of a road so that nobody's ever lost. Everybody can know the way back home. Isaiah gives us an image of Messiah with power, might, and strength. And that power, might, and strength being used as a shepherd. It is an image that is both cosmic, it's hope for the whole world, it's hope wherever there's war, wherever there's injustice, of a shepherd coming to bring justice and peace. And it's hope on the very personal, private level. A couple at the whim of the empire being moved around, being led to a safe place to deliver the child, being all alone when suddenly shepherds come in to share the good news, magi from the east who have said, we've been traveling for months to get here. Here are some gifts of a value greater than anything you've ever seen, let alone possessed. This is your gift now to be celebrated. You have in this vision the biggest possible canvas, but with detail so that every single person is caught up and swept up in a shepherd who grabs us and takes us home. Vision for a tired nation, comfort for a tired couple just trying to get to safety. You guys know the band Florence and the Machine? Probably know the album Lungs from 2009. Her song Dog Days Are Over. It's kind of a typical Florence and the Machine song. They're a rock band from London, I think, England somewhere. They have a harpist in the band. The Dog Days Are Over is a big, bombastic song. And that's kind of what they specialize in, is big, large music and songs. I'm going to play a song of theirs that came out 2 or 3 years ago called Free. And let me give you a little bit of a backdrop about the video you're about to watch. So, Florence and the Machine, this is a song about her anxiety. You are introduced to someone that looks like an aging rock musician from the movie Love Actually, because that's who's playing it, is Bill Nye or something? No, that's the science guy. His name's on there. I thought I remember his name. And so it's a song about anxiety and about those moments where you don't want to get out of bed and face the world. It's filmed in Kiev at the start of the war. So I love this video related to these two texts because it takes the very personal, her and her anxiety, and it puts it against the backdrop of a country that's being invaded. And I want you to listen towards the end to this line where she says, "Is this how it is? Is this how it's always been? To exist in the face of suffering and death and somehow still keep singing? Oh, like Christ up on a cross, who died for us? Who died for what?" And then she says to herself, "Don't you just want to call it off? But there's nothing else that I know how to do but to open up my arms and give it all to you." She says it better than me. Let's watch the video. I think sometimes we need the artists like Isaiah, the prophet, who saw the evil in the world and wrote poems. Or Florence and the Machine, who write a song about crippling anxiety and sing, "I hear the music, I feel the beat, and for a moment when I'm dancing, I feel free." Or to be in the Ukraine, in Kiev at a world at war, and dance on tables. It takes something to do that. It takes, when there's nothing left I know how to do, but to open my arms and give it all to you. It sounds like giving up, but it's actually surrender, as Lloyd talked about a few months ago. Surrendering into the arms of somebody who will lead us home. The anxiety that never leaves her, that controls her at the beginning, that keeps giving her coffee and cigarettes that she tries to run from. But he has a car, and he has no problem keeping up with her. And then in the end, that moment where she's looking over a graveyard, and he just puts his arm around her. Consolation. What is the good news that comes from the mountain? It's that the Messiah is nothing like Caesar. That he comes with good news, with strength and might to lead his people home. From a young couple that's being moved around the chessboard like pawns to the promise that those Caesars will one day fall and that the Messiah will come again. So let's come to the table. Come with your anxiety and your fear. Come saying there's nothing left that I know how to do but to open up my arms and give it all to you. Father, as we come to the table this morning, this Christmas, bring us hope. Bring us hope in the same way in the passages we read, of a weary nation longing for peace, of being moved and shuffled around like pieces on a board by a king and a Caesar who has no care for them, to a shepherd who comes with peace, who takes us in his arms, brings us to safety. Lord, as we come to the table, may we find that peace, not just for ourselves, but for a weary world longing to rejoice again. In Christ's name, amen. Come to the table.